Seek Sustainable Japan. I'm your host, JJWalsh, here in Hiroshima, and I have the pleasure once again of talking with organic no-till farmer in Mukaishima in Hiroshima, Thomas Kloepfer. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
It's
Yeah,
great to have you. And actually, I visited your farm the other day and
yep,
I took some video and I was planning to put together a video. And I was like, I should just have Thomas on the show again to get it straight from you, all about your
mm,
exciting updates. There's a lot going on right now.
right. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's kind of spring transitioning into summertime. So, yeah, the farm is always seems busy at this time of year. It's an exciting time of year. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when I talk to other farmers around different parts of Japan, it sounds like they take the winter off, but you really haven't had a break at all, right?
Yeah. It's kind of hard to. I mean, we are a little bit warmer climate. We do have one greenhouse on the farm, and so we just try to keep things going. We have several projects going on as well, so we stay pretty busy with that. And yeah, it's kind of hard to take the time off. I might prefer to take a few weeks off in summer if I can, because it's usually so hot. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the changes that I saw when I visited your farm. This time, it seems like you're planting more trees, trying to have that combination of like a food forest. Is that right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, the food forest model, it can be really be scaled up, and so that's what kind of what we're doing. I've seen a lot of gardens that practice it, but I think one of the things that we're trying to do is combine and interplant a lot and really stack the functions of the farm, because uh, there's so much space still available on the farm, and there's a lot of farmers who talk about that. I know Joel Salatin from the States, he mentions is that it's just stacking functions and finding space to grow more things. Because surprisingly, you can fit a lot in a small amount of land, right?
Yeah. And I talked to podcaster and food forest gardener Bean Pod, and he's doing the same thing. He designed his garden to have lots of trees and plants at the same time. I think it just, especially with the summers getting hotter and hotter, it seems like
Mm.
it makes a lot of sense, right?
Right. Yeah. Providing just more shade for your understory crops, it does make so much sense. And because we're doing the no-till style of farming, we don't really need to bring in big machines, and we can't bring a tractor because we're on this sloped hillside. So if we can add stuff in between or on the understory of some of these trees while the trees are growing, I think this can be really great. And some of those might even provide nutrients for the trees, like some of the nitrogen fixing plants that we have, like beans and peas that are growing. So the more we can do that, I think, and especially while you're waiting for those trees to actually provide an income as a farmer, who's, that's another really important part of our farm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm showing your website right now,
Great.
just to give people an idea of the beautiful view from your farm. Now,
Right.
like many farms around Japan, they're quite steep on the hillside, right? You
Right.
said that's both good and bad for growing food. Is that right?
I mean, I think it provides some additional challenges, especially, at scale. We're a pretty small farm, actually, by a lot of standards, and it does make it more challenging. But for the citrus, being on the slopes is good to have a well-drained soil, and it's also maybe some people say the shiokaze, so the actual salty winds that you would get off the sea breeze is maybe good for the citrus in a lot of ways. So we really we really take advantage of that. And previously, our farm was a citrus orchard, so we want to stick with what's been known to grow in the region. So that I think that's something we're trying to take advantage of, but it does make for a lot more labor-intensive work. We can't just bring in the tractor and till something under or till something into the soil when it's finished, and we can't really bring in larger machinery. So a lot of it's done by hand. But that's why we've tried to take advantage of using this no-till approach or no-till technique in the farm.
Yeah, I found an old picture and it looked like you were using a tiller. And you did say that when the soil is really compacted,
Hmm.
you do sometimes till it up a little bit
Right,
because it's like the same action that a inoshishi or a boar or an animal might do,
right.
which is nature's way of tilling the soil. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we might bring in the tiller, especially in the first time, or even when we have that the tool that's actually there, that's not a tiller, that's a wheel hoe actually. So what that allows me to do is hill up, and that's actually part of the no-till process. It's a tool I brought over from the States several years ago, and it really fits in with our no-till style. So not really flipping the soil over, but occasionally I've used the rototiller in the past, and especially when I first started on this hillside, there were some places where the slope was a bit too steep. So instead of running the tiller across the hill, um, I kind of ran it up and down the hill and pulled onto the tiller, and actually pulled the soil to create more of a terrace, which normally you might dig or do by hand, or you might do with a large excavator. But we were actually able to do that, just the topsoil anyway, to smooth out some of the hill. And we've still kind of done that in places where I find the soil to just be a bit too um, hard, or that's had some impact. Especially we raise sheep, so they often will sit or walk around some areas more than others. And so because of that, it's good to kind of go through and till up where they've been, just to loosen the soil in the beginning. But we have such a small rototiller. It's something that's actually available at the home centers here, and they really don't actually even till that deep. So it's another thing that's kind of good about the process we're doing. Yeah.
And just to remind people, no-till and organic farming, just give people a brief explanation of what kind of farming you're doing.
Mm,
Very
okay.
regenerative, right?
Okay. Yeah. So, right now there's several kind of terms that float around, and especially here in Japan as well. There's so many terms that might be, considered natural farming or no-till farming or organic farming, as you said. So, organic farming, although we're not certified organic, we do not use herbicides or pesticides or fungicides on the farm. So that might be considered organic in terms of what's allowed. But there are certain pesticides and fungicides that may be allowed under certain organic certification, and that depends on the country or the region, and also the certification body. But we're actually non-certified, so maybe we might drift into this regenerative agriculture or no-till agriculture, and that's a lot of our beds are already pre-laid out. We kind of maintain the shape of all of our beds, and we might apply a little bit of compost from our animals or some purchased compost on top of the bed, and then we'll take our pitchfork, which is our name, Pitchfork Farms. We actually will fork the beds, and our beds really haven't changed, especially in the lower part of our farm, in several years. We haven't rototilled there, and we haven't really needed to, because I think the soil has just improved and softened over time because we're actually not tilling the beds. We might add some wood chips or some wood shavings into the pathways to maintain the pathways, which is really great, and add carbon to the soil. But also that mulch will actually add more carbon to the soil too. And we might bring in leaf litter or other broken down compost that's made on the farm to improve the soil structure as well.
Yeah. And I think the first time I visited your farm was 2019. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
been 3 years. And I
Yeah, it has.
think this was one of the first photos. Now, I love this photo because, of course, you look great, but behind you as well is the hill, which
Yeah.
you have really been tackling and
Yeah.
getting rid of the dead wood and
Yeah.
making it more usable, right?
Yeah, you can actually walk through there now without getting stuck by, briars and right now I think the nobara in Japan. So this kind of wild rose is blooming right now, but you can actually walk through and without getting stuck by that or there and because that forest in Japan, people have been utilizing the forest and these hillside resources for generations and generations. And so at one point it was a citrus orchard as well, just like our farm. But what's actually come back, and some of the plants that have come back, a lot of it is creating too much, possibly too much shade, and it's kind of become a really dark place. So then a lot of animals can't come through there. A lot of birds can't fly through there anymore because it's overgrown. So it's really good to go in and do some clearing and yeah, really lighten up the place. Yeah. So, and we've used sheep up there as well, which has been really great.
Yeah, that was one thing that I did a organic yuzu farm visit.
Mm,
And he said he's for hundreds of years they've never used chemicals.
mm,
And their practice is always to cut the tree in a way that they get a lot of airflow.
right,
And that was one of the things that you said is important about thinning the forest to get more
right.
airflow through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of air flow through the forest will just, I mean, really lighten the place up. And I think then the next step might be to then plant or look at planting some more broadleaf trees and possibly some more nut species. So that's what we're looking at next. And then also because they did citrus farming, and if you've been to a lot of the citrus farms here in these regions, you'll notice that most of the citrus farms don't really have much of an understory, and they're really strict or serious about removing all the weed species and stuff. But because of this area, we might not necessarily consider growing a lot of citrus up there anymore. And so there's not really a whole lot of understory as well, like things like clovers and other grasses. There's really not much that exists there now because they removed a lot of that, and and the new weedy trees that have come up don't really provide a lot of mulch to the soil, and they don't really drop leaves that add to the nutrient density in the soil. So we're really considering that as an option going forward and how to better utilize it. But and right now too, there is just a lot of dead trees and a lot of things that could be cleared and reused. So yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that this is from your Facebook page
Hmm.
talking about cover crops.
Oh yeah,
And this
yeah.
is something you mentioned as well, throwing clay seed balls in or
Hmm.
scattering seeds or letting things seed and
Hmm.
come back again next year. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, cover crops are a really common practice, I think, both in organic and then in no-till farming, and especially in the regenerative farming. If you really want to build soil, some of the best ways to do it is to get a cover crop in. And a lot of farms, and in Japan, farms are typically pretty small, so a lot of people actually don't do a lot of cover cropping, like we see in some of the other um, countries, like in the States or in maybe in Europe. So what we'll do is maybe we'll plant clover, or we'll plant some nitrogen fixing pea, or rye as another really great cover, and we'll try to crush that, and then it'll break down eventually into the soil and really add to the carbon in the soil, and it'll also absorb a lot of some of the carbon in the air and then release that into its roots as well, and it'll stay there. And so that's one way we can do that, and then really just to recycle and take up a lot of those nutrients that are also leached out from maybe some of the compost that we've used or the fertilizers we've used on the farm. Those plants will actually take up some of that and then recycle that back into growing, and then we can take that and put that in our compost and just get the recycling process going. So soba is a great example. I think it takes up like either phosphorus or potassium that's kind of waste into the soil, and it absorbs some of that, and we can take that and then break it down. But I will say some of the cover crops can get out of hand. So maybe before you do a cover crop, you really want to look into how to take it out of your farm. Right now, I did soba in that same area that you just showed, and I have a lot of soba that's come up as maybe a weed now in between my lettuces. So it could potentially be a problem, but actually maybe soba and lettuce are very different in terms of the nutrients they require to grow well. So I might be able to get two yields out of this one row right now. I'll be able to get a soba yield, which then I can later use for another area where I want to put a cover crop in, because we're not growing enough soba to, turn it into noodles or pancakes or anything. But we don't have to then go back and buy seed again, which is really another sustainable practice, I think. But then we get this lettuce that didn't really have to fight with the soba to grow well, and the soba's maybe also taking up some water and then sharing that with the lettuce. It's really hard to say exactly what's happening underneath the soil because we can't see. But I think there's this process there's a lot more sharing going on than we think. And yeah, I'm noticing that. So with this one row right now, anyway. So
That's great. I love how you're very much aware of how things are changing on your farm, and you're
mm,
adjusting and trying things and then adjusting again. I love that style.
yeah, I think this kind of small scale, organic method, you are constantly doing experiments every single year, and you're learning, and then and you're making mistakes, but then you're coming back through and you're figuring things out. That's what's so different, I think, compared to maybe more the industrial model where, you know, you have this problem, you spray it with this, and then that's it. And but did you really learn anything in that process? And I want to try to see what we can do, or what maybe where nature might actually provide some of the answers and some of the solutions, as opposed to just going through and you know doing it with chemicals or doing it from an outside source. We can probably avoid some of that on these small scale farms.
Yeah,
So
definitely. We have a great comment from Z.
mhm.
Uh, Says, I've been farming for a decade now. I'm very familiar with all of this.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Great to have
great.
you here.
Yeah, 10 years is a good, I mean, I've actually, yeah, I've done 10 years here at this farm. And yeah, you learn a lot every single year. And and that's, I think, that's what experience is really all about. That's the best teacher, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's amazing, like people who don't really know about organic vegetables to look at this amazing lettuce and salads that you grow, and there's no, like, it's not destroyed by bugs. Like you're able to balance through what you're doing, a way to grow food without
Right,
using chemicals.
right.
I think it's
Yeah,
mind-blowing to some people, right?
yeah, and I think just the year on year. I mean, and by having such a diverse lineup and of crops, you know, one of the things that's really great is that maybe you will have some problem with this pest or this bug this one season, but I think having not having all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, is really a great way to really sustain and maintain the farm. And yeah, I think it's one of the best ways forward, for these kinds of farms. And I think growing healthy plants right from the beginning, your starts, that's really where it starts from. Maybe even seeds that you're purchasing, if you want to grow organic, maybe looking at organic seeds or seeds that haven't been treated with some fungicide or herbicide from the beginning, and then starting to save your own seeds within your farm. If you can start to do that, you'll have a much more diverse and much more strong plant that's used to this region, used to this area. And I think that's another big step that we've really tried to take over the last several years, that wasn't really available when we first started out in the first year or two. So
Yeah,
it's a
that's something I've heard Chuck Kaiser say, who's a organic farmer in
mhm.
Shiga. And he says sometimes he just goes and sees what seeds they're selling at the DIY center,
Mm,
because then he realizes what the other farmers in the area are probably growing.
mm,
And then he's like, oh, maybe I'll try that next time then or something. But
right.
there's other other vegetables that he wants, which is something that you do as well, and you're ordering in seeds from another area,
Right.
just trying it, seeing if it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and these days we're able to get. I've been able to find companies that are easier to work with, that do provide like really high efficient seeds. But then we're also able to get heirloom seeds and a lot of older variety seeds that we can save and that we can replant on our farm. And I've got several plants like our fava beans, so soramame, a few varieties of corn that I've been saving for several years, our peas that I've saved for several years, which have turned out to be really great. And this is something that I think can really work here in the small scale. And I know that in a lot of other communities, I think the UK has a really great gardening community where there's a lot of seed saving going on, but I don't see as much of that in Japan, and not as much as I would think. Um, so hopefully that can start to increase and start to grow over the next several years. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of seeds, I know you're a fan of Fukuoka Sensei, and
Right.
you make the clay balls with the seeds in, and that's my
Right.
favorite story from his book. How he was asking lots of primary schools around Japan to save their seeds at school lunchtime, and
Right.
then he was taking those in seed balls to Africa and dropping them everywhere.
Right.
It's such
Yeah.
an interesting way to
In
try to grow
in
things.
Yeah, and I mean to really regenerate or to green, I think the deserts is what he claimed to be able to do. And if you look through the pictures in one of the books that I have from the One Straw Revolution, I have this one copy that was gifted to me. There's a lot more illustrations in it, and you really do see the results. And um, that's what we really could be doing, and maybe need to be doing a little bit more even here in Japan, because um, some of these, like even in the forested area, it's actually not as diverse as it really could be. And so looking at that's where we've kind of started to use the clay balls and the seed balls some. So we'll be doing that, I think, this I usually do it around this time of every year, about April, May, a little bit before the rainy season. And I will, because we're going up into the hillside a bit more. Sometimes it's not even necessary to actually even do the clay balls. Just broadcasting the seeds is almost as efficient and effective. So I've been trying that as well, just to save some of the time involved.
Have
Um,
you ever you thought about using drones? I heard about an American company now using drones to replant trees in the
Yeah,
forest that have
I've
been
heard I've heard about that. Yeah, I
right?
think yeah, I've considered I would consider that like using the drones to, because drones would also help you to scout out an area, and I think there's a lot of advantages too. That could potentially be used for this kind of newer technology. Sometimes I've thought if I could use the drones to open and close gates for my sheep, so when I want to move the sheep around. And I saw, I think Jeremy Clarkson had this Amazon Prime show about him starting a farm. He was the um, one of the uh, what is it speakers on the show Top Gear. He was like one of the hosts, I guess, on Top Gear, and he started a farm in the UK around the lockdown time, and he tried to use a drone to move his flock of sheep. It didn't really work very effectively
It
though.
didn't work very well.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it maybe for some of these tasks like opening and closing gates and doors, like it's possible. And then yeah, for planting trees or dropping different seeds would be really neat. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try. And now drone technology has kind of come down in price a little bit, so
yeah,
a little bit more possible, even as a farmer, right?
yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably where a lot of the drone usage is headed, and really in terms of just monitoring, looking at the plant health. This is now possible with a lot of the technology and drones. And um, then I think that some people have argued that that could then help us to maybe limit or minimize the use of the pesticides we might be using, because you can maybe pinpoint the certain type of pests in the area too, and get a better understanding and idea of what's actually affecting, instead of just blanketing the crops in, the pesticide. You don't necessarily need it, and that would also save the farmers a lot of time and effort, money. So this could be a really great use of the technology. Yeah.
I actually talked to some sustainability hackers who
Mm,
live in Chiba, and they
okay.
were using technology in a way to monitor different kinds of chemicals or ingredients in the ground and in the
Mm,
water. So it seems like technology is going that way to help in agriculture a lot.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. So,
You have, speaking of exciting, as you are expanding into the hillside, you are also expanding wider and
yeah.
taking over some abandoned buildings. Tell us about your new projects.
Yeah, so we've got our my father-in-law, who's actually in the Tokyo area. He purchased an Akia here, so an unused house, and it actually came with the house that you've just pictured. It came with that house and that property. So what you see there is a citrus storage shed, and in the center, which that's actually no longer standing from that picture, is an older Japanese style house that was there on the property. And right now, you can see the citrus storage shed there on the right side, and then on the far left side, there's an older storage shed as well. And we're slowly trying to renovate this to possibly look at um, turning it into either like a Noka cafe. And then my wife, she has the textile company, Tachibana Textile Kinkyujo. She's considering moving her uh, company into the front room of the house. So we're, yeah, we're really looking forward to doing this kind of project. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. It's kind of been my background being in sustainable development and outdoor education from the States. I something I really wanted to kind of create here was this kind of living learning center where we're teaching ishokuju really at its at its most fundamental level. So the clothing, food, shelter, bringing those three concepts together and really showing what's possible from this sustainable living standpoint. Is this has kind of been you know 10, 11 years in the making, I guess, and we're super excited about the possibilities here. um, I mean,
This
her
is
work and her
standing
textile
in
work
front of
is,
probably the biggest job that we want to talk about in a minute. But we have a
yeah.
great question from
Hmm.
Janie Ikegami, who has joined from YouTube. Thanks, Janie.
Hmm.
She says, my apple trees are old and may stop producing soon. I want to transition into vegetable farming. I
Mm.
don't want to cut down the trees. What technique would you recommend for the transition? Good question.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how many trees and what the spacing is. But if you want to transition, you know, maybe some of the trees can be cut back, and then looking at, you know, these days some of the municipalities also have ways to um, take some of your old trees and cut them, and instead of just burning them off, maybe create wood chips with some of that material, and then add that back into the soil. And then it may be possible to graft some other varieties onto the trees if they're still healthy at the base. That might be a possibility. I've planted a few apple trees here. Um, and I don't think they'll ever grow apples because it's just not the right climate. But they're flowering. Actually, I have more flowers on my apple trees this year than in previous years. So um, I haven't worked in an orchard, but I think uh, I think it's really possible, and depends on your climate too. Maybe look at cutting those trees back and then replanting some other trees in that space, and then in the understory, yeah, um, maybe consider, depending on your soil, tilling it first and then starting your vegetable rows in between the apples could be really great. Um, but I
Because
think,
using the
mhm.
chipper and then putting the wood chips around on your farm as mulch, that was something you were talking about when we visited, right?
Right, yeah, we just got uh, a, a chipper. It's a pretty big investment, but we do have the forest area. We have a large bamboo section that we want to manage, and bamboo chips putting back into the soil. and really building up the soil is one way to do it. So yeah, we'll be using the chipper a lot in the coming years, and I think this could be a way to, yeah, instead of just burning off or having something hauled off, really try to recycle that back into your soil could be a really great way. And yeah, some municipalities, they do it more for bamboo use, but you might find in Japan that it might be available for you to rent a chipper for a low to reduce cost. So maybe you want to check that out.
And then putting it back into the soil is something
Hmm.
you're also doing with the old house that you're taking apart, and
Yeah.
you're reusing some of the wood and the clay from the
Yeah, so those
walls,
clay
right?
balls, that's what we've done previously. We've taken some of the uh, clay balls that we made before, and they came from our second story window. So when we put in our window, we did that. We took the clay material and actually made those seed balls and put them back into the farm, put them back into the hillside. So what's so amazing about some of these older Japanese houses is there's not a lot of stuff that you have to throw away when you're remodeling or redoing. I will say that some of the maybe the late 70s, early 80s, as you can see here, some of this is material that we did have to haul off and take out. It costs money and it's unfortunate, but it is part of the process too. But this one house and especially the storage shed that's in such poor shape, a lot of people would look at it and say, "Oh, you're going to tear that down, right?" And it's like, well, there's still a lot still a lot it's that we can use and we can do with it. That's the building I'm talking about there. There's you know a lot of that is still in good shape, and for me to uh, put a tin roof on it and give it breathe some more life into it is just one part of the reduce, reuse, recycle kind of mentality that we've got. Yeah, this is the top. We're getting ready to take these beams off so we can use them for another building, but it's a big puzzle that I am not sure of. And we took the kawara off, and we're considering with the kawara uh, what to do with that. We don't want to haul it off and pay money to throw it away. So maybe breaking it into smaller pieces and using it as in the walkways, or using it to fill some French drains. I know that's really common technique because it does rain a lot, and we can use that as well. Some people will grind it up into a powder and use it as a maybe a parking lot to keep the parking lot from getting too muddy. So we've considered that as another option instead of pouring concrete, which is really energy intensive and can be quite expensive work. This is another sustainable way of using the kawara again. Um,
The
so
tiles, yeah.
yeah, the tiles, the
It
roof
must have taken
Japanese.
ages to take the and quite dangerous to
That
take it
took
off
about
the
no,
roof.
I took those off in about a day.
It
Uh,
wasn't dangerous walking across and taking them off?
I didn't really walk too much on top. I kind of like uh, yeah, I kind of sat in the right spot, and yeah, I had
Amazing.
a ladder and a helmet, and um, yeah,
In
these are
Japan, quite often around the old neighborhoods, you will see areas with all the tiles just stacked around, right?
right,
With the
right.
idea that somebody's going to reuse it someday. So
Yeah,
if you can find a way to reuse it, that's awesome.
yeah. I mean, I definitely I've seen people will make raised beds with it. I think that's one way. I've seen people put it back into some of the building structure, maybe with some of this like wattle and daub or uh, cob style. So I've seen some of that as well. Yeah.
Nice. Jamie says she's in Nagano.
Oh,
So
Nagano.
you should find Heather Fukase, who's in
Yeah,
Nagano
yeah.
and
She's
farming
also an
there.
apple grower, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure she grows herself, but
Hmm.
she's helping some of her apple growing neighbors to
Right.
sell seconds, ones that are rejected from the supermarket, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that can be like uh, I think yeah, partnering up with people in your region, especially, would be the best way to go forward, and maybe talk to some of the farmers around there as well. What do they do to transition? Going from fruit to vegetables, and our farm, because we do a combination of the two. We want to consider yeah, how to just increase our, the yield on the farm, and by combining fruit and veg is one really great way forward. But
Yeah.
I know that that area, I guess, other things that grow well would be maybe peaches and plums and some of the stone fruits and apples. So there's a lot of potential in the area. Yeah.
That's great. I've talked to another farmer in farming couple in Nagano, Wendy and Rodrigo. So I'll send
Yeah.
you their details after. You know them. They did a Mexican farm to table Mexican food workshop for us, and it
Right.
was so good because he was growing his own beans.
Yeah, I was so impressed
Amazing.
by his beans. Cause, and I think Nagano would be a great region for bean growing as well. You could grow several varieties because here it almost gets too hot to grow certain types. We do really well, and we have done really well with soybeans here in the past, an heirloom variety of soybean. But the type of beans that he's using for making like refried beans and uh, more traditional Mexican varieties were really yeah, I was really impressed with that. Um,
Yeah, so good. And it's so hard to get a plant-based protein grown in Japan. There just aren't any variety. Most of the soybeans are imported. We just don't have a lot of vegan source material here.
yeah,
So yeah, getting the beans growing would be awesome.
right.
Let's go back to the house a little bit. It's such a big job.
Hmm.
You've got all these amazing things inside. Now, in this picture, are you
Hmm.
just taking out all the dirt inside?
Yeah. Well, because it was a storage shed, it had a lot of fertilizer and a lot of like broken up fertilizer bags that had just been sitting there for 10 or 20 years. Um, so we had to remove all of that. Some of those bags were broken. There was a leak in the roof. So maybe some of the bags, because they're paper, had just, I mean, really just fallen apart. So we had to scoop a lot of that out. Um, I, you know, wasn't sure what some of the material was. So it's one of those things where I had to bring in a neighbor to help me read some of the kanji on some of these fertilizer bags. And there's so much stuff that came out, and there's so much stuff that actually can be reused. I found a lot of old uh, toolboxes, wooden toolboxes with a lot of really great tools inside, and some of the baskets, like the citrus baskets that I think you've shown, are still there. And it's really, um, how do we avoid throwing some of these things out, and because they won't make these again. There's not really anybody that can make some of these baskets here in Japan anymore. So
I
um,
love those
we
baskets.
we have uh, tried to keep as many as we can, and the ones that are in really bad shape, I've been bringing up to the hill and hanging in the some of those trees that in the area we've been clearing. And when I've got time, I'll play some frisbee golf up there using those citrus baskets. So yeah, that's
I wonder if
recreation.
you could make like a way to catch the fruit in and roll it into the basket with a
Ah,
netting
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, maybe putting down some boards that would just, as the fruit falls, it kind of rolls down the hill, hits the boards, and rolls right into the basket. So
I've heard that's how the ume farmers do it
I know
in
I've
some
seen where
areas.
they'll take and shake the tree, and I know they're using some of these technologies where they'll actually put like a tarp, and they'll wrap that around the tree and then shake the tree down for some of the nuts. But I saw some videos of some new technology being applied in farms, and it looked pretty aggressive way of harvesting some
It might
citrus anyway.
damage the tree, hey?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But these baskets for collecting the citrus are so gorgeous.
yeah, yeah.
I did a lemon farm experience the other day in the
Hmm.
Seto Naikai, and they gave us plastic baskets. I was a little bit disappointed because I
Mm.
had seen yours and they're gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most of the farms, they really wouldn't have kept a lot of those. I mean, the plastic containers are maybe more stackable, I guess, so it just more function there. But you know, and
And
it
the
seems like every time I go to the clean center here in Mukaishima, I see these baskets just being thrown away, and sent to the incinerator. So
Oh, how sad.
it's yeah,
And
it's a
these are
shame.
drying baskets as well? Like if
I
you
think actually those would have been used either as citrus as well. But then if you've ever seen pictures of Japan from 100 years ago, 150 years ago, some of the paintings and actually some of the pictures, you'll see people with a wooden stick across their shoulders and they're carrying a load on both sides. That's what those are for. And I've got some of those sticks here on the farm, and it makes, before everyone had a wheelbarrow, uh, and now we've got an electric wheelbarrow, so we're getting really high tech. But this that's what they were doing to walk up and down the mountain. They were harvest vegetables and they would take them up and maybe carry them to some stream and wash them off and then bring them back home. You could imagine, how many daikon you could possibly fit on one basket on one side and the other one. So you could,
it's
yeah, maybe
amazing.
that's what they were using them for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you had an interesting car, which was in the hillside farm that you are trying to clear, and you
Right.
have some
Yeah,
great
somebody
ideas
has
how to use
decided
it.
to throw away or just leave their car abandoned in the hill, instead of paying the money to throw it out. Yeah, they abandoned it. And then they went and made a concrete space for the grave. So now you can't get the car out of there, maybe ever. I don't know what the plan was. I don't think there was a plan. But yeah, maybe we could turn it into, as I mentioned, frisbee golf. This could be, the place where you come and pick up your frisbees before you go in and go into the forest to play frisbee golf, or it could be a small chai shop, a bohemian little tea shop up on the hill. Could be another option. We're thinking of what we could do with it, but
I love that
yeah,
idea. It's
yeah.
fantastic. And you said about being the last samurai, you're like the last farmer in that area, right?
In this area right now, yeah, and it's kind of a joke. I mean, but when I'm out farming here on the hill, there's not really a lot of people out. I mean, you could imagine at one point there would have been people growing food in and around and the village, but these days I think I'm one of the only people producing food for sale here on the farm, here in this area, in this village. And it's interesting, I think, to think like what the future could hold, for this space. And going back to the building and what we've thought, my wife's family name is Nisato, which means uh, the kanji is new and village. So we hope maybe this could be the new village, or the start of the new village is the new property. And maybe it won't be like that, and I hope not. I hope not. But yeah, this is something we think about and we kind of joke about. Yeah,
That's
because
awesome. I love
yeah,
that. Creating the new village.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
expanding into the buildings and providing a place for volunteers to sleep who
right,
volunteer on the farm. You mentioned your wife has her workshop,
right,
maybe moving into that area.
yeah.
There's a lot more you can do now that you have those facilities, right?
Right. Yeah, it was something we didn't have before. We took our house, which was a citrus storage shed, and we renovated that. But it really isn't a place to, provide for people to stay up until now. But now with this new property, yeah, we have several tatami spaces. We've actually got a woofer or volunteer coming this weekend from Friday evening, which will be great to have, some extra hands on the farm. And we've set up a day on Saturday for people to come out and help us put in maybe the last fences of the hillside. We'll see. But
Yeah.
it's one of our last expansions. So yeah, we've got a group coming out,
My
which should be great.
automatic translation on the Facebook alert said you wanted people to come and volunteer to climb fences. Was the
Oh,
automatic translation? And I was like, that sounds really fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, there
Climb
might
and
be some
make,
climbing. There could
maybe.
be some
Yeah.
climbing too. Yeah.
We have some great comments. Enrique says, when you planted your first plant, did you know that you would be doing it for years? Or was that just a love increased day by day? I love that
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I had no real plan. I knew that I liked. I liked it. I really liked this hill, and really to be able to come out here and I usually worked here after I taught English at the elementary school, so I would cycle over and plant potatoes with the neighbor here, and yeah, I really just got kind of got addicted to it, and so little by little, yeah, it's something I just grew to really enjoy. It's not without its hardships and its losses, and it can be tough. Japan and nature in Japan is a real powerful force at times. So yeah, we definitely uh, we definitely have picked it up though, I think.
I'm
And
showing the view in the evening
yeah.
as you're finishing your farm work. This is from your Instagram page.
Mm,
So, how can you not love that view? It's
yeah.
just amazing.
Just on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, was the full moon, full pink moon, and we get full moon rise from this side because it's east southeast facing. So we get to see some really spectacular skies, and we also get a really great sunrise. So it's a good place to be. Um, yeah.
We have another comment from Davo's story time. Thanks for joining, Dave. He says, I love the frisbee golf or tee shop idea from the old car.
Yeah, yeah, it's we got to do something with it, So frisbee golf, and it's a sport activity that I really enjoyed when I lived in the States, and we kind of made up courses at the college that I went until eventually we got into a little bit of trouble playing in the center of campus. So they ended up building us a course, and that was something we did a lot after school. So I'd like to get some of the baskets up on the hill and have another, another recreation activity.
Yeah. Wow. How
So
fun. When I was on the lemon farm just this weekend, they said, do watch out where you're stepping because of the snakes.
right,
So
right.
do you have hazards, natural hazards around your area too?
I think going into Golden Week is when I start to see some snakes, and in the pathways now that we're doing more tours, I try to keep up with the grass, just so where people are walking, because snakes they like to be in tall grass, and around, but Mukaishima, on this side of Mukaishima, because we don't have a lot of water and we don't have a lot of we don't have any streams or creeks here, you don't see as many snakes, but they definitely they definitely are here. Maybe in June they might go after the chicken eggs, so that's something we have to be careful about. I think one time Coyote reached in to grab one of the eggs, and on the end of the egg was a snake. So
Wow.
she screamed, and I didn't know why she was screaming. I ran over and to see it. Sure enough, it was I think it was maybe like a common like field snake, not a rat snake, not a poisonous one. But they can. I think I saw Chuck had a post recently. He had a poisonous snake in his hand. I don't know if it was alive or not. I don't know what. I didn't get the full story, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty scary. When I lived in Shuzenji near the river, I used to see those all the time, right by the river. So I think they lived under my house too. So yeah, it's
Now
kind of scary.
your sheep are up there in the forest.
Yep.
Are they not bothered by snakes or
I
wild?
think one year a snake, or maybe the a what is it, the uh, murder hornet, uh,
Oh, the
the susumebachi.
suzumebachi.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think one took a bite or a sting on the nose, and the face swelled up. And I couldn't figure out what it was. But a few days went by and it went down. So maybe they got into something over there. But yeah, it was. I had no idea. I couldn't explain why all of a
Wow.
sudden the front lip is swollen double the size. So it's either a snake or a bee. But they seem to
Wow.
be okay. Yeah.
Now you have a variety of animals, but you really like the sheep. And I
Yeah.
think the sheep is really interesting in how both you and Cowdy are able to use the wool for
Yeah.
her business and the dyeing, as well as they eat all the weeds. Tell us about the sheep. You're going to shear them
Well,
soon, right?
we just did two on Saturday. We had two male and female that we did on Saturday. The people from my work came by and helped me shear on Saturday, and we got two done in about 2 3 hours. Then we'll take the wool. Either Cody's company will wash it once, and then she can either dye it and we can hand spin it, or we can do felting. So these are some of the things we're using. And right now, with spring, there are a lot of different variety of grasses growing on the farm, and so the sheep are our number one, um, number one fan in terms of, eating something that's coming off the farm. They love any of these grasses that we have, so they're a big part of that. And instead of taking those grasses and throwing them out or incinerating, which is often common here as well, or using some kind of herbicide, yeah, the sheep love it, and they took full advantage of it, and they help us clear the land in the beginning too, and then they then fertilize they through their manuring. They're providing that, and then we're able to go back through and start to think, okay, what can we grow next, either for them or for our customers, and what can we grow for, and improve, either new trees or new plants in the area. So yeah, it's really great. And because of that too, because they clear, they also help to keep the wild boars out as well, because once they've cleared that space, wild boars will be less likely to live in that space. We've had to get rid of a lot of wild boar nest in the last several years, which will come in and eat, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, and everything else on the farm. So we're using them in that way as well, which is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting that you don't imagine sheep in Japan, but this is the
Yeah.
felting that
Yeah,
your
this is
your
the
wife
felting. This is
does. Yeah,
needle
it's
felting.
gorgeous.
So yeah, making like a simple brooch here, I think, is what Cowdy was making in the picture. And yeah, you can do needle felting, and you can also do the other felting to make either hats or maybe a vest or some kind of clothing. You would take soap, warm soapy water, and then just rub that with the wool, and a lot of the oils on the wool will start to break down and actually mold over on top of each other. And that's a way to make like felt mats, and you could make also like a tawashi, some kind of cloth, so you could clean, and then that could be once it's unusable, put it in the compost and it'll break down, or you could actually use it as a mulch around your newly planted citrus trees, for example. So it's got multiple uses, which is really great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So we just have about 7 more minutes. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to touch on, or what are your plans for going forward with the remodel? Like, when do you expect you're going to have something open that people can visit? Oh no, we lost Thomas. Oh no, maybe his battery died. Oh dear. So thank you, Enrique. Great comment. It's amazing, bro. Oh, such a beautiful place, right? And Davo's story time, the wild boar love pumpkin and sweet potatoes. They ravaged our batch last year. Yeah. But like Thomas was saying, the wild boar do also, as they're digging, that is good for the soil. So that's another way nature is helping to keep the soil healthy. I'm hoping Thomas will get back on and join us again in a minute, but that might be all for today. It was wonderful to visit his farm. If you are in Onomichi area of Hiroshima, you should definitely get over there and visit. I'll show you the website for Pitchfork Farms, and then we'll sign off. I'm sorry we've lost Thomas. You can find Pitchfork Farms on Facebook, and he and Cowdy, his partner, they often update their information on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, sounds like he's back. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yay, you're back. We thought we lost you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
Yes.
well, I'm on the computer now. Okay, great. Yeah, sorry
Wonderful.
about that. I'm sorry
No,
about that.
no. I was just asking you anything we didn't talk about, and then you left.
Yeah,
I thought it was just too difficult of a question. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. I had to get back to the farm, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, right now we, we will continue to have different events on the farm. So please check out our either Facebook page or check out our website. We are going to be offering tours. This year we're kind of limited to our markets just because of our work schedule. But yeah, we will continue, um, and hopefully by fall we can open up to the new property. That's kind of what we've got in mind. So yeah, please check us out. Either on our website, Facebook, Instagram, and um, just to keep farming. Yeah, is through the summer. Try to beat the heat somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that your new idea of having the trees and the plants together, maybe not helping so much this year, but it will help in the coming years?
Yeah, into the future, absolutely. We look forward to when this place really starts to fill out with some of these new trees that we. I'm also experimenting with new varieties and not just citrus, but just so many types, just to see what grows. Because these days, with the climate, we really don't know. And in the greenhouse this year, I'm gonna try, you know, when they go on sale at the home center, I want to get maybe some bananas, some early maturing banana varieties, probably do some papayas again, you know, give this place a little bit of a tropical feel because it certainly starts to feel like that come July and August. And then, yeah, we're just going to see how things grow. And yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw your banana tree when I was there. I
Yeah.
was surprised you could grow bananas.
Well, yeah, it'll fruit, it'll flower, but to get a ripened fruit is not possible with this variety. But they're constantly putting out new varieties, and some of the varieties I think that they put in the home center would allow you to maybe some dwarf varieties would allow you to actually get a fruit from the banana. And I was at the one of the local seed and plant shops today talking about avocados. So but avocado trees are really expensive in Japan. It's about 8,000 yen for one tree, and you need two. So if you grow 10, you're gonna need about hachiman yen. And
I am trying to grow avocado every time I eat an avocado. I
yeah,
try to
you
grow
put
that
the seed.
seed every single time. Never works.
You need. I don't know if you've seen, but if you take like a cup of water and you put some prongs in it, and
Yeah.
eventually it'll sprout. My neighbor, she sprouted 3 for me this past year, and I put
Really?
them in the ground just the other day. So
I
um,
sprouted one over the years like that, and
yeah.
then it died the first winter. So maybe something that you can bring in, or
Yeah, yeah, maybe put it in a pot, and after about 2 years, but, you know, depending on the area, I noticed that this year our neighbor, uh, definitely had, some browning from the on the leaves, so but only partially, so she didn't lose it all, and maybe as you think about where you plant it or where you put it, putting it in a really warm space or possibly next to, some kind of insulated wall so that insulation will then radiate off, or maybe in our case, we might put it next to, like, a large tank of water because that will provide some, insulation for the tree itself as it's starting to grow. But after a few years, they should be able to maintain themselves. The three we put in this year, um, 2 out of 3 seem pretty good, and we put them next to one of our smaller greenhouses. So if we need to wrap it up, or maybe even consider adding some, insulation on it at some point, we might have to do that. So yeah.
wow, that would be amazing to have avocados in my
Oh
monthly box. I
Yeah,
would recommend everybody sign up for one of Thomas's monthly boxes if you
yes,
live in Japan.
please do.
It looks like 2 or 3 thousand for a monthly box, and you can ship anywhere in Japan, right?
Yeah, yeah. Going forward, we're gonna be shipping using Cool Bean. So yeah. But yeah, it's about 3,000 yen. You can go upwards of 5,000 yen for your box. So if you've got a larger family or you eat, a pound of kale every day.
And I love how you wrap everything. Is that just for me? Everything in newspaper
So
without plastic?
we try to, yeah, we try to. It really depends on the customer, and it depends on the product too. I've noticed that we were able to get some of these paper bags as well, so we're gonna start doing that. But sometimes, yeah, we're able to wrap in newspaper, and um, I really am hoping to find more links and more products. I know with tomatoes this year, I really want to get some like some kind of paper container that we can put the tomatoes in. So that's one thing I need to be looking at right now because pretty soon we'll be harvesting tomatoes too. So
Oh,
yeah.
can't wait for my next box. You also hinted there might be some shiitake in my next box. I love
Yes,
shiitake.
I need to check the logs, and I think yeah we'll be able to send those out too.
Awesome. Awesome. We got some great comments here at the end. Jeannie says, if she's in Hiroshima, can she look you up?
Yes, you can. So and if you want to come do a visit at the farm, you can book that online. That's fine. Or you can send us a message directly if you want to spend. And typically, our tours run about an hour, hour and a half, and they include some produce. And if you're interested in staying and doing some volunteer work on the day, then we wouldn't charge for the tour, and we just if you can lend a hand and help us feed our sheep, that's all we ask. Yeah.
So you can find Pitchfork Farms on Instagram, on Facebook, and you also have a YouTube channel, don't you?
Mm,
No?
my wife does. My wife has had, yeah, Uraraka Shima Gurashi. So she did that up until just this past year. And she's got, I think, about 10 to 15 videos in Japanese uploaded. And some of them focus on the farm. But again, that theme, that Ishokuju, clothing, food, shelter theme, is really a big part of her presentation. So check that out. That would be great.
Yeah, awesome. Enrique says, thanks, Thomas. Was amazing to know your history. I hope to visit you in the future. Thanks, JJ, for connecting us with amazing people. I really love making new friends. Awesome, Enrique. Thank you. Dave says he wants to sign up for your monthly box. Awesome,
Yeah,
Dave.
please
Fantastic.
do. Yeah.
That's a great way to get some stable support, right? As a farmer.
Yeah, I think so. We've mostly because nowadays with markets, being kind of up in the air, sometimes they just get canceled suddenly, and we've, put the work in already. We've ordered the seeds, we've ordered the fertilizer. So yeah, getting that kind of support is really great. It's most of what supports the farm and allows us to continue the activities we're trying to do into the future. So any support there would be amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Thomas. There's so much that you're doing. Of course, so important for sustainability. We need more farmers in general, but we need more farmers who think like you in such a regenerative, circular way. So thank you for everything you're doing. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks, for sharing our story with so many people. I think it's been really great. So, thank you, and yeah, see you again soon.
Yeah, I can't wait to come and visit and help on the farm when I can.
Yeah, see you.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Take care.